Kia ora, you should be here if you have written your introduction, you've written your 3 paragraphs, and now you're ready to write your conclusion. If you haven't written your 3 paragraphs, go back and finish doing that first. There's no point learning how to do this if you haven't done the other. And also, I strongly recommend you actually then check your work with me before you bother writing the conclusion, in case you've made any mistakes and you need to fix those up before you embark on writing your conclusion. Conclusions should be brief. One of the most important things my history teacher taught me in year 11. And so today I'm going to show you how to write a 2-sentence conclusion. You should be here if you're more interested in really learning the solids on how to write an essay. I just made up a phrase there, really learning the solids. What does that mean? And if you are wanting to write a more advanced essay, you shouldn't be looking at this tutorial, because I recommend that you write a 3-sentence conclusion if you are trying to do a more advanced conclusion, because you would be connecting back to your opening quote. And if you're in this series of tutorials, you probably don't have an opening quote, which is absolutely fine. So we are up to step 11, writing a conclusion. It is 2 sentences, but I've combined it into one video because it's pretty straightforward to do. There's our question, there's our essay, here's our conclusion. When Jonas becomes the receiver of memory, it is an important turning point because we learn that he is different, it causes Jonas to grow up, and helps him to learn about his community. The Giver inspires readers to be brave enough to leave your childhood behind as you journey into the unknown, on a quest to discover who you truly are. 2 sentences, easy peasy. I like to call it the restate and the remind. Whoopsies, I forgot I can't just go on to the next slide. So the first sentence, you restate. Restate your turning point, just in case the reader forgot. So Jonas becomes the receiver of memory. It's been a long time since the beginning of the essay, so you need to remind them by restating that Jonas becomes the receiver of memory. And restate the 3 points you discussed across your 3 paragraphs. So the easiest way to do that, if you've done a good job so far, is to either go to your introduction, where you should have listed your 3 points, or go to the topic sentence of each of your paragraphs and remind yourself what are the 3 points that you've discussed in your 3 paragraphs. If you followed this plan, which you may not have, but if you have, your 3 points would be about how he is different, he grows up, and he learns about his community. The paragraph that I've written for these tutorials, remember, is about how he is different. So you've got to restate the 3 points you've discussed, because seriously, by the time your reader gets to the conclusion, they will have forgotten. They might remember the one that was just in the 3rd paragraph, but they won't remember the other 2. So you've got to restate what you've actually talked about. The next step is to remind. Remind your reader what the entire essay has actually been about. Think about that thesis statement. Remember how we talked about the thesis statement being really about Jonas growing up and becoming an adult. So you need to come up with some cool sounding way of putting that as a last, like, remember how I was talking about full stops, as you know, your statement at the end of your paragraph is a full stop. This is like the full stop on your entire essay, and a really good remind will leave your reader thinking, what an interesting thought. But you shouldn't really be introducing any new ideas into your essay. So the Giver inspires readers to be brave enough to leave your childhood behind as you journey into the unknown on a quest to discover who you truly are. Remember what I just said before, our essay is really about Jonas growing up, and it's also about Jonas learning more about himself and his community. Now, that's quite a long sentence. Yours wouldn't have to be that long, and yours could also be something simpler. It doesn't have to be as fancy as that. But really, you are just reminding your reader what the entire essay was about. Yours could say something as simple as, the Giver tells the story of a young boy who becomes a man. That would be a fantastic remind sentence. Very simple, very straightforward, leaves the reader in no doubt about what your essay was actually about. So restate, remind. And then by the time your reader has finished reading your entire essay, they'll be very, very clear what they've just learned about and how you have answered the question. So that's it. You now have all the steps you need to write your entire essay. You should be stopping now and writing your conclusion. I would say that the remind sentence is probably one of the hardest sentences that you're going to write in your conclusion, and the more you practice them, the better you'll get at them. Start off with something super simple, try and make it as short as you can, and then see if you can make it more sophisticated in your second and third drafts. And remember, just give it a go. You know, I might read it and think, yep, that's great, or I might read it and think, oh, it's not quite there, and I'll give you some help to come up with a better way of putting it. When you're writing your own conclusion though, the most important thing is don't look back at the sentences that I've written, because it'll just cloud your ideas. You need to watch the tutorial, re-watch bits if you need to, pause, etc. But then you should be getting rid of those words from in front of your face and writing your own versions, so that what you're coming up with is from your own mind and your own ideas, and you're not getting distracted with what I've written, comparing what you're writing to what I've written. When I say what I've written as well, remember I didn't actually write most of this. This is just the simplified version of somebody else's work. I shouldn't try and plagiarise. Okay, so congratulations on making it thus far. You're nearly there. And remember though, this is just your first draft. So your next step is going to be handing it in to me, and then it's going to be all about polishing what you've done so far, crafting it, making it a controlled piece of writing, so that we can aim for the very best work that we can produce. Well done.